So as we all know, the Chicago Blackhawks have been a mess on the ice this season, but now they have a big mess to clean up off the ice. Yesterday, longtime Chicago Blackhawks general manager Stan Bowmen announced he was stepping down after the sexual allegations made by a player against a former video coach for the Blackhawks came out into the open, and Bowmen really had no choice here. And as we know, the allegations are made by a player known as John Doe in court documents towards former video coach Brad Aldrich. I'm sure you guys know how the story goes by now. Aldrich is accused of sexually assaulting this guy. I believe he did sexually assault him, considering that Aldrich has had a history of doing stuff like that. And the thing that's really disgusting about it for me, even more than maybe the fact of what Aldrich even did, not that I'm putting it in light context what he did, don't get me wrong here, but is the fact that the Blackhawks coaches and management staff tried to hide this up. And look, you get many differing stories on this. Joel Quenneville and Kevin Cheveldayoff. Quenneville, obviously the head coach of the Chicago Blackhawks at the time. Cheveldayoff, the assistant general manager, who's now the general manager in Winnipeg. They said they didn't know until the summer of 2010, when clearly they did know during the playoffs, as 1 hour after they eliminated the San Jose Sharks in the Western Conference Finals to move on to the Cup Finals, they had a meeting discussing Brad Aldrich and discussing where to go from here, how to deal with these allegations. So come on, these guys can't tell me they don't remember that. And Quenneville was called up to the meeting a little bit after it started. He says he has no recollection on whether or not Brad Aldrich's name was mentioned. Cheveldayoff, on the other hand, he says yes, Aldrich's name was mentioned, but he's not sure if Quenneville was there or not when they mentioned it. And Stan Bowmen has a different recollection of this, as he said Joel Quenneville shook his head and said, "It's too hard to get to where we've gotten. Let's not deal with this right now." I'm paraphrasing the Quenneville quote, of course, but I mean, if he really did say that, that's so messed up. So he's putting the team's success, winning a Stanley Cup, over this player, a Black Ace player, but why? He's not important because he's a Black Ace. He wasn't playing for your team at the time. I mean, my goodness, you talk about, or the NHL talks about wanting a safe space for everyone. Hockey is for everyone, it's inclusive. Well, it didn't really seem like it was for this player, was it? I know a lot has changed since then, but come on, even in 2010, at any time, but even in 2010, that's a messed up thing to say. Joel Quenneville is a guy who, for myself anyways, and I think a lot of people feel the same about him, have a lot of respect for. I have a lot of respect for him. And I think a lot of people looked at him as a great coach, a player's coach. But after I heard that, I mean, I just lost all respect for him. And I'm not going to remember him for all the great stuff like winning Stanley Cups, getting all these career wins, being known as just an all-around good, respected guy in the league. I'm going to remember him for that quote, really. A lot of people have been talking about the Hawks management at the time and their coaching staff, and they should have done a better job, and rightfully so. Well, they should also be talking about some of the players too, particularly Jonathan Toews. Jonathan Toews, who was the captain of the team, was on the ice when this player received taunts from his teammates after this happened to him, saying some really horrible things. I won't repeat them here during this video. But Toews was there, and whether or not he was the one saying it isn't the issue. The fact that he stood around and even watched that, even if he wasn't saying it himself, that he even sat there and watched that happen to one of his teammates is terrible. I mean, you're on the ice, you see that happen, you're the captain of this team. Step up and stick up for the guy. Come on. People will say, oh, well, he was only 22 years old at the time, and it's easier said than done. The reason why the Chicago Blackhawks made him such a young captain is because they felt he was mature beyond his years, and they felt he could handle the burden of being a captain, right? So there's no reason why he shouldn't have stepped up and stuck up for his teammate in that situation. There's no excuse for that at all. Look, I'm trying to do as good of a job as I can relating this story. There's a lot of details. I'm definitely going to end up missing some of them, so please bear with me here. The Chicago Blackhawks have been fined $2 million for this incident, but for myself, that's not enough. No, that's nowhere near enough. I mean, the New Jersey Devils 10 years ago were fined $3 million. They had to rescind draft picks as well because they gave that illegal deal to Ilya Kovalchuk. So we can see what the NHL takes more seriously. Another thing that makes me sick in this story, and there is a lot of them by the way, is the fact that Brad Aldrich was able to stick around with the team. He should have been at least suspended without pay. Just keep him away from the team after you hear that if you're not going to fire him immediately and you didn't want it to disrupt team chemistry like Joel Quenneville said. The day after they win the cup, they're celebrating on June the 10th. And Brad Aldrich, the guy just can't help himself. He goes and he sexually harasses a 22-year-old intern working for the Chicago Blackhawks, I believe, at the time. And Aldrich went to Human Resources at the end of the season. The Blackhawks gave him the option to have an investigation done or for him to just resign. He obviously chose to resign. So that's good, right? Okay, he's gone, he's out of the organization. But the Hawks give him a good letter of reference to go to his next job. I mean, yeah, it's not a good look for the Chicago Blackhawks. Aldrich would go on to sexually assault a 17-year-old high school hockey player in Michigan, working as a volunteer hockey coach. That would have never happened if he was outed a few years prior to that in 2010 like he should have been. Again, not a good look for the Chicago Blackhawks. And there's a lot of different stories in this case where, you know, Aldrich says it was consensual between him and the player. But am I really going to believe a guy who is a registered sex offender in the state of Michigan who was proven to sexually assault a high school hockey player, an underage player, obviously? Like, am I really going to believe that guy that it was consensual over a guy who's saying, no, he forced me? Like, come on. One hero I want to point out in this story is, I believe he was the Blackhawks skating coach at the time, Paul Vincent. Paul Vincent was a guy who told the truth. He was on John Doe's side from day one as soon as he heard about it. According to Rick Westhead at TSN, this cost Vincent a lot of things, like a job in the NHL. He was told by the Blackhawks that, yeah, you can stay in the organization, but it won't be in an NHL capacity. So pretty much they're punishing the guy for telling the truth. It cost him a couple of Stanley Cup rings, obviously a lot more money too, as he would have been making more had he stayed in the NHL, had the Hawks let him stay in the NHL. And it also cost him, get this, friendships in the game too. I mean, if you tell the truth on something like this, it's not going to be, or you're not going to be hailed as a hero like you think maybe sometimes. There's a lot of people out there that, I don't know, they just give you the cold shoulder and they don't really want to seem to be on your side after that. They're looking up in this case. The Wirtz family apparently did not know about this. You can make what you want of that. I mean, I guess they didn't. But things are looking up here, like I said. They've been very cooperative, the Chicago Blackhawks have, throughout this case. And hopefully John Doe gets something out of this here, because that was not an easy 11 years you would have to imagine for him. So that's it for this video, guys. Please let me know what you all think in the comment section down below. This was obviously a very different video than what I normally make, a much more solemn video. But please like and subscribe and share this video. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll talk to you again soon.